Hi, love. Hello, and welcome to Co-Creative Healing Journey. My name is Greta. I am a healer who loves to draw cards, and this is Love Messages, where we are going to be bringing through messages from Spirit about love and relationships of all sorts. And so I'm going to tell you a bit more as I draw the original cards for the reading to get us started. So, the notion with these readings is that they are for those of you who are part of a specific soul group who have been moving through soul growth and soul evolution. And in order to help you, especially with how dark these times are, then Spirit has created this process to be available to you. So there are free messages here on YouTube. And then on my Patreon, I am posting healing. So it's also card readings, the continuation of this reading where we're going to be including healing energy. And there's also energy work to be done. For the next couple of weeks, we are working on peace. So there is going to be energy work to help you move through those energies. So here on YouTube for free, over on Patreon for $8 a month, and all the information in the description box. It is up to you. Let's heal. Let's see what Spirit wants to talk about here and now. We've gone, yeah. Sorry. We've got resolving conflict, and I'm laughing because I should have told you. So that's going to be very interesting because Spirit was talking to me about this reading and showing me that when we were going to talk about peace today, we were going to be talking about conflict and kind of shifting our perspective on what conflict is, to see it as something that serves harmony and is harmonious in and of itself, and go from there. So we have worthiness. Love it. Oh, beautiful. We have got the distorted feminine. Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got Moon in Aquarius, free spirit. Yay. Your inner wild child awakens. We have got Moon in Sagittarius, discovery, freedom, and adventure. And we have got Eclipse in Leo, compassion, shine brightly like the star you are. And actually, if you've seen the life messages for this week, the same thing kind of happened where we were talking about peace and then the main card was renewal of peace. So it's like that. And I'm just kicking myself because I was thinking, oh, I should have shown it to you. I should have told you about the conflict because now that I've drawn the card, it doesn't come off in the same way, right? I feel like I've robbed you of a kind of magical moment, or at least sharing in the magical moment that I had, right? And so the reason why I'm sharing it is because there's an underlying message here because I'm going like, why didn't I? Why didn't I? Why did? Well, it was the harmonious thing. It's kind of conflictual to what I would want to do, how I think should be, how I think things should be happening, but it is harmonious in the yeah. Ah, nice. It's harmonious in the situation and circumstances. And so Spirit is saying, first and foremost, let's not get it twisted. Resolving conflict starts within us. It starts by changing our own understanding of what is harmonious, what is not harmonious, of how things should or should not happen. And when we can overcome those within ourselves, then in the situation or circumstance, conflict doesn't need to arise. So I don't need to actually be upset or stressed or anything, which I'm not, because it's harmonious, right? That's the point. It's like, how would I put this? What Spirit was telling me is this. There's an example I give all the time about harmony. And harmony for me is to be in alignment with the energy. And so for example, the example I give is that in a relationship, a fight can be really harmonious because things have been building up and it's just harmony. It's where the energies are, it's what the situation is at. And so it's about having that fight in order to go into the conflict and then you resolve it and you move on and hopefully closer, right? And it's part of knowing how to do conflict, to move into conflict for it to be better. And so literally, the imagery is wow, it's literally what Spirit was talking to me about because it's about someone moving to the person they're having a conflict with as opposed to moving away from them. And now here in this image, they're showing someone who is light and has thingy and is moving to someone who isn't in the same situation. It's like there's a power asymmetry here, right? But it's not what Spirit is talking about. It's like this is you. The part of you that moves to conflict, and the part of you that avoids conflict, which would be linked to this distorted feminine energy. Someone who is at the bottom of the ocean, there's pressure, there's strain, and when conflict arises, they're like, why are you talking about me? You know, it's like that thing where someone says, for example, I don't like that you did this. Well, yesterday you did that, and then you did this, and that's the distorted feminine energy that cannot tolerate conflict because it becomes personal. That there's some kind of wounding with the self, distorted feminine energy. There's a wounding related to the self, the relationship to the self, and therefore any kind of conflict external becomes co-opted by this wound, this pattern inside, in order to engage and react with something that really can just be objective. Conflict can just be objective. We think different things, we want different things, we like different things. It doesn't taste the same to both of us, right? And so it's about being very, very aware of this energy and not listening to it. And literally one of the, again, things I was, it's like I'm extending my conversation with spirit here, which I love. So I think for some of you, there's that kind of energy that spirit is saying, yeah, think about experiences in your life recently, maybe some conflict that you've been having within or with other people, in situations, circumstances, with your workplace, maybe even just conflict in your schedule. You want to do one thing, but you can't find the time for it, and so on. Wherever there's, those objective conflicts, where there's how you think things should be, what you would want, and then what's happening or how things are unfolding, they're really going to help you to understand the messages that spirit is sharing, but also spirit is really sharing messages to help you here and now with what you're going through. And so in that conversation with spirit, I remembered one of my favorite couples that I watch on YouTube, and they're actually a family channel, so I don't watch them as much. They actually started a couples channel when I just got so over family channels that I can't watch it anymore. I was blessed where they started a couples channel and they talk about their couple. But one of the things that they do is that there was a vlog in their on their family channel where there was they were talking about something, and the husband tells his wife, he says, now I'm gonna get mad at you. And she's standing maybe like a meter or more away from him, and he said, I'm gonna get mad at you now. And she goes, oh, why? And she moves towards him. And it was just the opposite of this energy. You're going to get mad at me? Well, why? And, she didn't get defensive. She didn't get anything. She heard conflict and she goes, oh, let me move towards the conflict. Let me move towards him, because conflict is something to embrace. It's something to move towards. It's something that's, to seek out in essence, so that it can be resolved, which also presupposes the understanding that conflicts can be resolved, should be resolved, right? That you don't just let them fester, kind of this distorted energy where people, give the silent treatment, or things just fester and linger for years and years and years and don't get resolved. So first of all, it presupposes the understanding that conflicts can be resolved, which is Spirit wants to tell you. Conflicts can be resolved. Conflicts that you are experiencing right now can and are intended to be resolved, because we are talking about from a space of that is your process. So your process right now is about you learning to resolve these conflicts, and Spirit is coming in to help you with that. So that's the one. Conflicts can be resolved, and two, learning how, having the skills, the tools, the abilities. And the couple I'm talking about have been training for years. They've adopted a bunch of kids, so they have had so many classes on parenting, also on relationships, and so on and so forth, right? So they've also developed the skills, and that her moving towards him is a skill developed, either taught to her, but also developed from being married to the same person happily for 17 years, right? So it's those kinds of things. By the way, it's Jared and Shelley from Crazy Middles, and then they have their channel Crazy in Love, if you want to check that out. And so, worthiness, which is so the opposite of this energy. This is the bottom of the ocean. There's so much pressure at the bottom of the ocean. Feeling like you're drowning, feeling like you're under so much pressure to kind of uphold a sense of self, right? It's that, it's the saying, yeah, this one would be the opposite, where you're out in the open, it's free. And then it's that notion, nothing to defend, nothing to fight for, nothing to prove, just being you. And how much such an experience is rooted in worthiness. And worthiness in this instance, Spirit wants to highlight with the aspect of looking into the reflection, right? So the ability to look into one's own reflection and seeing the core truth of of who you are, as opposed to all of the externals and all of those smaller level things that could have you go into the distorted feminine experience of yourself, right? So for example, I actually had an experience where, as part of my process, I would start watching left and right. People were saying, I'm not perfect, I'm not perfect, I'm not perfect. Something people love to say all the time, which is supposed to denote wisdom. But then I started to say, well, I know you're not, but I am, ha ha ha, and it would make me laugh, and I would think it was a joke. But consistently, people will be like, well, I'm not perfect, but I'm like, well, I'm perfect, I'm perfect. And at some point, I was like, goodness gracious, what is this? And I realized it's not Greta. I'm not saying Greta is perfect, but there was a part of me that was speaking in response to what I was seeing and telling me, I am perfect. I am divinely perfect. I'm divinely made. And I am from a space and a place that exists beyond conflicts and issues and other people's opinions, other people's needs. It exists beyond, difficult to hold. It exists beyond what happened today, what happened yesterday, what happened in 2020. Actually, I'm remembering having this huge moment of worthiness in 2020. And so beyond all of that, there's a sense of self and experience of self that Spirit wants to guide you towards, because it creates a tremendous amount of resilience, because then you can be imperfect. Greta is imperfect, absolutely. I am perfect, but Greta is imperfect, and I am Greta, absolutely, also. But I don't have to do everything right all the time, and I don't have to work the camera right all the time. I don't have to say things the right way all the time, and I don't have to do this and this and this and that, because my sense of self is not centered from that. And that's the fundamental conflict to resolve within, which then can create a lot more freedom, a lot more openness, and a very, very completely different experience outwardly, externally, right? And so I am checking in, because I'm not perfect. I need to check in to see if I share with you that experience. And it's true. I was by the lake in nature in 2020, May 2020, when all of this when the pandemic was really heightening. And so I was by the lake in nature, and I had this moment of openness, expansion. Everything was so big inside of me, but also like the sky and everything I was looking at, it was so beautiful, absolutely transcended, felt connected to all of life, all of existence. It was so incredibly beautiful. And then instantly I felt like, contraction. And I felt my sense of self kind of rear up. And I thought, what on earth is this feeling? And I looked into it, and it was a sense of unworthiness. And it was a sense of unworthiness that came from remembering when I was little. And every time I had stepped forward and been in my I am, and been, oh my God, I am amazing. I am so smart. I am so interesting. I'm so pretty. I'm so joyous. I'm so me. I'm just doing this and this and that. And then have been met with judgment that had me contract, make myself smaller, and in turn feel unworthy, right? So that the unworthiness would kind of be a contraction. And then from there, learning these kinds of distorted perspectives and patterns, which leads to having an experience of expansion that becomes a space of conflict. I'm not perfect. I can't be perfect. I can't be this. I can't be that. And it's a conflict within to resolve, in order to then be able to expand, grow, learn externally, right? So to resolve the conflict within you, so you then can resolve conflict in your own life. So from there, there's a mirroring aspect the Spirit wants to talk to you about, which is happening in your life at this time. At this time, there's an invitation that a situation in your life is extending towards you, right? So wherever you would be experiencing conflict at this time, in that situation, there is space for you to expand. There is space for you to break through these old patterns, leave them behind, and expand into a truer version and experience of yourself. your inner wild child, your true being, your spiritual being. And it's really talking about kind of a part of you that you've made smaller, that you've tempered, that you've limited, that is now able to break through and sustain it. Because again, as I was talking about this experience, it was huge. And there's the expansion, and there's a video here on the channel, I believe, that talks about that expansion, contraction. I think it's the cruise or bruise method. You expand and you're cruising and everything's flowing and it feels wonderful, but then you meet basically the circumstances of the reality you've been developing based on a lower level of energy that you were embodying just before. You're functioning at a lower level, and so your reality was more constricted. And then you expand, but stay in that same reality. You're going to feel that constriction, and it feels like that's the bruise part of the method. It doesn't feel good. It feels and so what happens very often is that we have the constriction, and we feel that it can be quite painful. And so we restrict the energy in order to stay in alignment with our reality. But Spirit wants to tell you that your process at this time, and that's the conflict to resolve. And again, a situation where you're experiencing conflict with yourself, with another person, in your work, in your finances, in society, wherever you're experiencing conflict at this time, there's going to be something. Really look for it in that situation or circumstance. There's the potential here. Your process is taking you into a space where you're going to expand. And it's very important to uphold that expansion. So not to contract and go back. And so in order for you to hold that expansion, your reality needs to follow suit, and your reality is going to expand along with it. But you have to go first. And so we're talking about discovery, and we're talking about love and relationships, but let's follow it. We've got freedom and adventure, moon in Sagittarius, discovery. And this is really where Spirit is bringing us back to that love, relationships, even with the notion of romance. You're going to the next level. You're going to the next level in terms of love, in terms of relationships. Again, people, places, things. It could be on your workplace. You know, we have all kinds of relationships, but it's time for you to experience a greater level of freedom and adventure in relationships, and it's time for you to discover that. But you go first, right? This is the moon and the shuttle going up to the moon, the rocket. So to go where no one has gone before. It's for you to go where you haven't gone before, and there to discover a new way of relating that you haven't experienced before, and that you haven't had ever. That you haven't had ever, because you haven't been able to hold it and to sustain it. This is where your pattern wants to take you. And for some of you, that means that there is a relationship where you're experiencing conflict, and going into that, engaging with that, and being sure to come at it from a space of worthiness, from a space of correctly knowing yourself, from coming from a more expanded sense of self into that conflict and engaging there. We have empathy, compassion, understanding. Bringing those kinds of love energies into this conflict is going to allow you to go to a higher level within you in how you love and how you relate, but also in how you are loved and how you are related to with. So specifically, it could be that the relationship itself is ready to go to the next level, and it will. Or it could be that you go into it and the relationship is not able to, the other person can't go with you. But it doesn't matter, you go. And then you will find others, discovery, right? And for some of you, you're going to be discovering whether that is the case, whether this person can meet you, whether they can engage, whether they can grow, whether they can expand, whether they can not go along for your journey, but whether they have a journey that can go along with yours, right? Whether you are on paths that are compatible. Oh, beautiful. Shine brightly like the star you are. Exactly. Don't constrict. This is about compassion. And at the end of the day, Spirit is saying the number one reason why we don't resolve conflicts is because we don't want the answer. And the thing about a conflict is that it can keep things stuck for a really, really long time. And of course, it's because we aren't resolved within ourselves. And literally, I just dreamt this last night. So I had a dream where I was walking by a room, and in that room, I saw two people that I know. And I saw it, and it was a beautiful room. It was very bright, like brightly white walls, indicating purity, also very spiritual energy. But I had somewhere to go, so I kept going. And then one of the people in the room came out, and they followed me, and they were like, "Why did you move past the room? You have to come into the room with us," basically, right? And we had conflict, we had an argument. And but the point was, it's like, objectively, of course it's a good room to be in, and it's a room I used to be in, right? But the point of it is that it's not where I belong. And so there's a compassion in moving past the room for myself, compassion towards myself, but it's also compassion to not allow people to keep you where you don't belong, where it's not good for you. Karma goes both ways, right? If you allow someone to hurt you, you're allowing them to hurt themselves. You're rather participating in them hurting themselves, and you're participating in that karma. And it's both ways. We don't allow people to hurt us for us, out of compassion for ourselves, but also out of compassion for them. We don't participate in those games. And so Spirit is telling you, any way that you contract, you are acting out of compassion for yourself and also out of compassion for them. And really, there's this message at this time where it's just time for you to move on. It's time for you to shine brightly. It's time for you to expand. And you will have, compassion is actually here. You will find that whatever resolves the conflict here, it's for you to step up and shine. It's for you to say, no, that's not my room. That's not my space. That's not where I belong. And with me and this person, I happen to know that the resolution of the conflict is not me going in the room. It's both of us being happy that we have our own rooms. We have our own spaces. We have our own ways to be in the world. We have our own ways to go about life. We're just different. And that's okay, right? It's to celebrate that difference and actually to find it very complementary. That's how we resolve our conflict. There's going to be something similar for you, but the resolution of the conflict comes from you stepping up, you upping your game, right? And expanding, you shining brightly. It's the same message over and over again. Expand brightly, shine more, go higher, right? It's about kind of moving beyond any kind of boundaries or limitations that currently exist, because they are just fundamentally, Spirit is saying inefficient, but they're also like a lie. It's a lie. They're telling lies at this time. And it comes from an old, wounded, limited, and very patterned way, encased, embedded way of being that you're now ready to expand out of when it comes to love and relationships in your life. So love, that was the reading. I do want to have a takeaway. I brought out a lot of decks. And then I just talked and talked and talked, which I did not expect. But that's what happened. And oh, sorry about that. That was loud. Freedom upside down. We're going to take that one too. Yay. That's so cool. Alright, so the card that flew is, oh goodness, compassion. You demonstrate the language of the heart by actively sharing and living love. Well, there you go. And the bottom of the deck was freedom upside down. And so it says, you are releasing any self-imposed restrictions or perceived limitations through the loving energy of openness. Well, there we go. That pretty much sums up the reading. We have, for me in this deck, I use it in a way where I say that if the card is right side up, it's about people, places, things in our lives. And if it's upside down, it's about our own energy. So the takeaway here is to have compassion for people, places, things in your life and for situations and circumstances. That's really the energy that is going to help you to overcome a conflictual situation that is really weighing on you right now. And the thing about compassion is that compassion is the bridge that allows love to flow. And that's what Spirit taught me. So there's the need for love to flow in this situation. There's the need for your love to flow in this situation. But to understand what compassion really is, compassion is not to how do I put this? It's not empathy, for example. It's not really to understand where the other person is coming from and so on and so forth. Compassion is to value their experience. It's like, yes, I understand, going back to my dream, I understand why you want me in that room. I understand what it means to you. I understand where you're coming from. And that's my love going to you through that compassion. However, I have my own path. I have my own way in the world, right? I have my own heart. There's self-love here. The heart turned towards oneself. And so, again, the lesson here is that these two are not opposite. They're not opposite. We can have compassion for other people and what they want, what they need, what they deserve to have also from us. And we can follow our own freedom in life. We can be free. We can release anything and everything that keeps us stuck, while at the same time being compassionate. So for those of you, some of you, for those of you where this conflict is going to be resolving through a separation, then Spirit is also saying to have a tremendous amount of compassion for this other person as you're seeking your own freedom, but also to understand that seeking your own freedom is your compassion towards this person. To really apply both of these principles in how you're inherently going to seek to resolve conflict in the situation. So my love, that was the reading. That was the first ever